Sirius XM NASCAR Radio. I'm broadcasting leading up to qualifying. So, can you talk about what importance your teams put on qualifying tonight? Both of you?
Yeah, you have to put some importance in single car speed. Everybody works really hard building the cars at the shop to put all the speed into the car before it leaves the shop. So it's really hard. Like once you get here, you just really work on drivability. There's not a whole lot you can do for speed, at least that I know of. The crew chief probably has a different opinion, but usually what you show up with is what you have. So at this point, you kind of get an idea of where you stack up, and it's really hard to tell in practice just where you stack up because you don't know how much of a help guys are getting from a draft from cars in front of them or not. So and nobody's gone through tech like you do before you go to qualify. So we'll have to wait and see tonight.
Yeah, I think, a lot of what Aric said, I think more than anything, it's just the pride of the guys at the shop. Obviously, like he was saying, they work all off season trying to get ready, and you don't know where you stack up until you go to qualify because of all those variables in practice. So I think you put a little bit of stock in it, but at the end of the day, I mean, you're racing in the pack. You're not racing by yourself, but the faster your car can be by yourself, typically the better it's going to be in the pack. But I don't think there's a ton, like Aric was saying, especially on these cars, that you can do to kind of find speed. So what you got is kind of what you got. And I know for us, we haven't put a ton of emphasis on qualifying just because you have the duels to kind of dictate where you're going to start anyways.
And how much will the qualifying times and as that stacks up show us about how the teams are doing with the next gen car, and how much will it not?
Go ahead.
I mean, I don't know if I'm the guy to answer it either, but I think that it's going to be hard to tell. There's going to be some teams, I think, in manufacturers that'll probably be a little bit better by themselves than others. So, I don't know how much you can really read into qualifying. I think, the same top teams are still going to be fast. I think there's still going to be that gap throughout the field, but, that difference in first to 40th, I feel like with this next-gen car will probably be a little bit smaller than it was with the old cars. So outside of that, I don't think you're going to see a ton of differences.
Let's go to Davey Siegel.
Hey guys, Davey Siegel, Front Stretch. Aric, I don't know if this will be your last Daytona 500. Are you open to potentially running this race again in the future if the opportunity would present itself?
Potentially. I'd have to talk to my wife and kids about it, see if I can get a hall pass to do it. But yeah, I don't know, right? You never know what the future holds, and I've came down here before thinking that it could be my last in years past, right? Like when you don't have a contract going past that year, you really never know when it is going to be your last Daytona 500. And I got my eyes open to that when I wrecked in Kansas and broke my back, and wasn't sure if that was going to be the end of my career there as well. So yeah, every time I come down here, it's special, and you never know when it's going to be your last Daytona 500. And for me, growing up, just a couple hours down the road, this is home for me. So I always get goosebumps when I drive through that tunnel, and it's the start of the season, and it's a land of opportunity when you show up down here for the first race of the year. Everybody comes down here with a lot of positive vibes and thinking that they've got an opportunity to be the Daytona 500 champion.
And for Chase, last year you obviously came close to winning at the Indianapolis road course. What are your realistic expectations for this year? Is it a win, multiple wins, a playoff berth? Do you have a concrete number or goal that you want to achieve this year?
Yeah, I mean, I felt like last year, the first half of the season, we kind of were just learning each other as a team, and me learning the Cup Series. And I felt like by the end of the last year, we were consistently a 10th to 15th place team. And like you said, we were able to contend for wins occasionally, but not as often as we would obviously like. So I think this year, at LA, I felt like we were one of the top three cars, and obviously had a mechanical failure. But I feel like as a goal, we want to obviously make the playoffs. We want to do that by winning a race, not on points. And if we can win one race, why can't we win more than one? So I mean, there's no number. I mean, we would love to just win one, right? But I think just to be more consistently in the top 10 and more consistently battling for wins instead of the 3 or 4 times we did last year.
All right, let's come up here to Holly and then Kelly.
Aric, I wanted to ask you, being a Tampa guy, do you have what is this race going to be like? Do you have a bunch of people that are coming up? Is this kind of a farewell, or does that come in the second race?
No, I do have a lot of people coming. Yeah, we have a lot of family and a lot of friends coming just to take it in. Right, it's the Daytona 500. I know, the next race, right, in whatever that is, August, is the last race of the year in Daytona. But this is the only Daytona 500 of the year, and so yeah, we have a lot of family, a lot of friends coming over. I'm sure it'll be hectic. My wife Janice is managing all of that, so I don't really have to worry about it. But yeah, we've got everybody asking for passes and a parking pass and everything else. So she's managing all of that, and I'm looking forward to it. I'm excited. It's going to be fun, and that's one of the things. Flying down here yesterday morning and then driving through the tunnel. I really reminded myself just to slow down. I mean, our lives as race car drivers and just in the industry, you guys know, you get on an airplane, you fly, you hurry up, get to the next place, you hurry up, you do the next meeting, you hurry up, you do the next practice, you do the next meet and greet, whatever it is, you're always in a hurry, right? Like my life is lived on a minute by minute schedule. I mean, I could show you my itinerary for Daytona 500, Speed Week this week, and literally my schedule is broken down on a minute by minute schedule. And so I just reminded myself driving through the tunnel yesterday morning, like slow down, like take it all in, embrace it. What we get to do is incredible. I get to drive a race car for a living, and I'm, tremendously blessed to do that. And it's one thing to say it, but it's another thing to kind of slow down and embrace it and live it. And that's kind of my goal for this week and going into this year.
Go to Kelly.
Kelly Crandall, Racer.com. Aric, given that this could be your last 500, has there been any thoughts of what could have been in 2018? Has that race come back up in your mind since you've been down here?
Yeah, only really because yesterday between practices they were showing it on TV, and the TV was on in our hauler, so it reminded me. But I don't spend a lot of time thinking about it, honestly. And would I love to be a Daytona 500 champion? Absolutely. And I would love to get it done this year. That'd be fantastic. And if I never get it done, that's okay. I want to. I'm a competitor, and I have a huge desire to win at any racetrack that we go to, but especially here, like winning in 2014 here. I remember like standing in victory lane. It was raining, and I remember looking up into the grandstands. And I know the grandstands have changed since then, but I remember being a boy. And I remember, sitting up there with my grandfather and my dad and my mom and my aunts and uncles. And I remember watching races here, watching Daytona 500, watching the Firecracker 400, sitting in those grandstands. And I remember being in victory lane for the duels last year. We won the duels, and again, standing in victory lane and looking up there and just kind of in disbelief, like I can't believe it. I've won an Xfinity race here. I've not won a Daytona 500 here. I know where victory lane is. I'm very familiar with it, but I've not won a Daytona 500, and it would be very special. But at the end of the day, trophies collect dust, and I don't put all my stock and all my weight in being a Daytona 500 champion.
Let's go to Jordan and then Alex.
Jordan Bianchi, The Athletic. This is for Chase. Chase, when you look back at your rookie season into this year, where do you need to get better at? And for you, what would constitute a successful 2022 season?
Yeah, I think looking back at last year, just the Cup Series, I learned really quickly that you can do everything right and still struggle to run 15th. So just trying to eliminate mistakes. I think I had more pit road penalties than anybody last year, and just doing all the little things right, maximizing green flag pit stops, getting on and off pit road, obviously on pit road, doing all of those things right. There's just a lot of things that in a Cup race, if you're going to win these things, you got to do everything perfect. And I didn't do a lot of those things last year. I felt like I made a lot of mistakes, and just, in the lower series, you can get away with those things and still win races. And in the Cup Series, I don't think you can do that. There's very few guys that can make mistakes and get big penalties or whatever and come back from it. So I think just doing that is kind of the biggest thing I feel like I could do better. And then, from a successful season this year, if we could just make the playoffs, I think that's a good goal to have. And, if you can be one of those top 16 teams going into the playoffs, I feel like that's a big accomplishment. So that's kind of our goal, and like I said earlier, I'd love to get there by winning a race, not by points. So if we can do that, I would consider it a successful season.
Alex.
Thank you. Alex Andreev with the Charlotte Observer. Somewhat of a related question, I guess, but hopefully both you guys can answer this because I imagine you'll have very different answers. But what is some advice that you would give to rookies in the series this year?
I think for me, first off, just enjoy it. You dream your whole career trying to get to the Cup Series, and you get here, and like Aric was saying, it gets to where you're just in a rush, and it's minute by minute by minute, and you don't really savor the moment of being in the Cup Series and what a privilege that is. There's only 40 people that can say they're a Cup Series driver. So for me, I think, I didn't do the greatest job of that last year at times. You get so caught up in, the results and all these things and the pressure that comes with it instead of just saying, you're a Cup Series driver. Like, this is what you've dreamed of your whole life, and just really just appreciating that moment. So I think that's the biggest thing for me, to tell those guys, is just really slow down at times, because it's so easy to just get caught up in the lifestyle and caught up in the results and all these things. And then outside of that is just you're going to get raced really hard and just standing your ground to a certain extent. Those guys, the racing for 20th in the Cup Series, I think, is the hardest racing you'll ever do in your career. And it's so easy to let those guys push you around at times. And I think just you got to eventually stand up for yourself to a certain extent. And I think that goes a long way, and guys start racing you differently after that. So that would be the biggest thing for me, is first off, just slow down and really appreciate the moment. And second, you got to earn your respect, but at the same time, you can't just give all the time.
Yeah, for me, obviously a lot of what Chase said, but to expand on that, something that I think of differently, and looking back to when I, first got started in the Cup Series, I wish somebody would have told me to be prepared to work harder than you've ever worked before. That's one of the things I think about when you make it to the Cup Series. Like, that's not the end goal, right? Like, you've made it, but you're not done. And the work ethic and the level of expectations and stress and everything just continues to ratchet up as you progress from series to series. And when you make it to the highest level, when you make it to the Cup Series, the expectations, of you and of yourself need to be the highest they've ever been. And you got to be prepared to work, whether that's through, making sure that you're doing all of the things you need to do, from studying to, being ready to go in the race car, being fit, making sure you pay attention to your hydration so you're not cramping up inside the race car, and all of those things. Like, I didn't do the best of job at that as I entered into the Cup Series, and I worked really hard at that through the process. But the work ethic that the guys, even on the team, and the crew chief and the engineers and everybody that supports you, is so high that you need to have that expectation of yourself as well.
Let's go to Jeff Gluck.
Chase, can you share the story of your road trip gone bad, and what's the status of that now?
What a couple days it's been. Yeah, so last Monday I bought a fifth wheel. Drove it down myself on Sunday, and I was going down 95, and the leaf springs fell out of it. It was sideways going down the road. Luckily, it didn't flip over. Sat on the side of the road for, I think, 10, 11 hours. It's still sitting there. They haven't found anybody to come fix it or tow it. So, yeah, it could have been really bad. It, moved the axle back about 10, 15 degrees, and like I said, it was sideways going down the road. And luckily, it happened literally 1/8 of a mile before an exit ramp, and I was able to get off. But yeah, had both dogs, had the baby, had the wife with me, and it was eventful. We left Charlotte at 8 a.m. and got to Daytona at 1 a.m. So still no fifth wheel, but yeah, it was quite the day for sure.
Are you gonna get your money back?
I don't know what's gonna happen. Yeah, apparently it's under warranty, so I don't know. We'll see what happens. But yeah, it's been quite the week.
Let's go to the back here to Sean.
Sean Clark of the Report. Aric, you know as well as anybody about the highs and lows of super speedways. So what is your mindset coming into this year's Daytona 500 with the new car?
Well, yeah, that's a deep question, to be honest. You know, the car and the racing is still yet to be proven out. There's still a lot of unknowns with the new car, and how it's going to race and how it's going to be. And then, you know, to cap all that off, like, how aggressive are you going to be and can you be throughout the week, right? There's a limited supply of cars and parts and pieces and all of those things. And so that changes the dynamic for sure. It's not like when we used to come down here and by the time we got ready to leave for Daytona, we had 8 race cars pretty much ready to go. You know, 2 to 3 per car number for Daytona specifically. And then your West Coast cars were all but wrapped up and finished and ready to go before we left for Daytona. That's not the case. So that changes things. But I think we'll still see the same, you know, dramatic Daytona 500 that we always see when it comes down to crunch time and the pay window opens, you know, because everybody wants to be the Daytona 500 champion. Everybody wants to win the biggest race of the year. And so as competitors and as race car drivers, we're going to, you know, shoot for every gap and put ourselves in whatever position we need to try and win the race.
We'll try to squeeze one final question in, and we'll go to Daniel McFadden.
Daniel McFadden, Frenchers.com. Chase, what was it like filming your Mahindra tractors commercial with Tony Stewart? And was that your first commercial or your national commercial you've ever done?
Yeah, that was the first, big one for sure. It was cool. You know, for me, everybody that knows me knows that I was a diehard Tony Stewart fan growing up. So obviously drive for him, now do commercials with him. It's cool. It's a surreal moment every time. You know, anytime I can be around Tony, it's crazy to think 15, 20 years ago, I was wearing that Home Depot uniform and helmet, acting like I was him playing my video game, and now I'm doing all these things with him. So it was cool. Yeah, it's crazy how much goes into a 30-second commercial. I learned that really quickly. I think we did 2 full 9-10-hour days to do 2 30-second commercials. So
Wow.
It was a lot, but it's super cool to do. It's cool to see, and the fans have loved it so far. So it's been a really neat thing to be a part of.
As someone who has been doing commercials like that for decades now, has Tony given you any advice on how to navigate that side of the job?
Truthfully, no. I don't know if you want to take his advice either way, but no, not really. And Tony wasn't even there the first one we did. They kind of had him do it at a separate time. So I was only around Tony for a couple hours the one day. But yeah, it was neat though to do. And that, Mahindra's, I think, proven pretty quickly how serious they are about the NASCAR thing, to be investing in obviously the race team, my dirt racing, and now also doing, commercials, all over the place is pretty special to be a part of and be a part of that team. So it's been cool, and, it's only going to keep getting bigger and better. So it's something to be really excited about for sure.